wrong place.
That's a lot of it was timing, eh? Somebody who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah, it's true.
Got dismembered. Yeah, he must have felt bad about it.
Who?
Shorty.
I would guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, 9 parts. Not too much of me can be put in 9 parts.
The screams started again. They seemed to last forever. I can still hear Shorty Shea's screams. After 37 years, Shorty Shea has never stopped screaming.
At one time, those 3 people were either members or associates of the infamous Manson family. They're not the only ones that's been saying this story. It was said in court too. It was said by a lot of the girls that Shorty was chopped into 9 pieces. After Shorty was killed, supposedly, back to this area that is at Spahn Ranch. Well, let me explain the Spahn Ranch to you. Spahn Ranch is up the street from where Shorty got killed. Shorty is down the street about, it's less than a half a mile. It's not that far. It's a small distance, and the girls have always explained it like this, and a lot of people in around that circle have explained it like this, that Clem and the girls went back later in the night. They smoked a joint under the full moon while they chopped him into 9 pieces, and the girls buried him in spots all over the place. Well, rumor had it that when they dug Shorty up, he was missing a hand. So that would make sense that if he was missing a hand at the coroner's office, maybe he was in pieces at places. So that got me thinking, got me looking.
I hope it don't grab me on the way down. Here, let me get up there. I want to touch that shit. This is it, dude. This is it, man. This is the spot that they were kneeled down right in here. Some of them cops were kneeled down right in here while the other ones were taking them pictures that from up above, right? Yep. And then the other, right there, directly right across from the tracks, you can see that just as plain as day as well. This is it. They were in here taking it. Okay.
That got me thinking, got me looking, and basically by accident over the years, I probably have investigated Shorty more than anybody has. Been to the spot probably 100 or 200 times, and that's not exaggerating a bit. It is off of Santa Susana Pass Road. It's at a street called Red Mesa, but Manson said back at the time that was just a stagecoach road that led up into Iverson Ranch, a movie ranch, and just right a piece up that road, it's not even a quarter of a mile, on the right hand side is where they filmed the Lone Ranger opening scene, where a Lone Ranger comes in and rises up on the horse. That was filmed right here where Shorty was killed too. I mean, if the Lone Ranger was real and not a movie, he could have came down and saved Shorty. But you know what's funny? A lot of people, they look at this Manson case like it was a movie. Like it was a movie and everybody involved in it was actors. And if you look at some of these things, sometimes it looks like it was just a movie. Some people would call them conspiracy theorists. But then again, if you're making movies about it, they call you producers and directors and whatever. And if this sounds familiar, the stuntman thing and the Spahn Ranch thing and this Charles Manson thing. So if the stuntman story and the Manson family and Spahn Ranch sound familiar to you, it should, because it was just in Quentin Tarantino's movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and the stuntman was Clint Booth, I believe, in the movie, and one day he showed up at Spahn Ranch, and he was going to check out his friend, George Spahn, who lived in the house. And I was lucky enough to be able to walk around on this ranch. I seen where George Spahn's house was. He went to visit George Spahn, which was a friend of his, a friend of the stuntman's. surely the stuntman and George Spahn in real life were friends because they worked together, but I think more along the lines that they were portraying the stuntman as maybe several different people in the movie, because when the stuntman shows up to the Spahn Ranch, all these kids, they're kind of forceful in not letting him go visit his friend George Spahn, and he was kind of forceful and like, screw it, I'm going to visit him anyway. That was actually in Clayton Moore's book. Clayton Moore is the Lone Ranger, as we were talking about. Rock is right up from Shorty's grave. He is the Lone Ranger, and he did know George Spahn. And in his book, he mentions the fact that where he went back to Spahn Ranch, the kids gave him a hard time. They didn't want to let him visit. He finally went in and visited. George told him that he was, this pretty much, the storyline of that goes along kind of with Clayton Moore's book on his visit to the ranch. So in that part of it, Clayton Moore, the Lone Ranger, is this stuntman. But now when the stuntman comes back outside, he is Shorty Shea again, because this is where he gets his revenge on the guy that killed him, which would be Clem. The guy that's portraying Clem in the movie gets the crap beat out of him in this movie. I can't remember what happened. I've seen it twice and I can't remember what happened. I think he flattened his tire and he told him to come and change the tire, and he told him to change it himself, and he's like, beats the hell out of him. Well, that was sort of a revenge back onto Shorty Shea, because Shorty, in real life, I think got butchered and cut into all those pieces by that guy character in the movie. This stuntman, his name was Shorty Shea. He was sort of the same thing that the guy in the movie was. He was sort of a stuntman, sort of a handyman, sort of a do-anything kind of man to make money. Did it a lot with Hollywood and Hollywood actors. So he was sort of the same character. Well, in real life, Shorty took a much worse fate. Again, his story is boiled down to, they drove him down the street. Okay, I was back to Spahn Ranch. I'll tell you how Spahn Ranch is. Where Shorty was killed at is along Santa Susana Pass Road, and it's at the street called Red Mesa. Right there, that area, that's where he was killed at. And then he was supposedly left somewhere for a while because they were supposed to come back at night. Well, the last person to see Shorty Shea was his boss at Spahn Ranch, a lady by the name of Ruby Pearl. And when she seen what she said she seen was, she seen Shorty at his car at Spahn as she was pulling out to leave, as she was going home. So when you work on a ranch, you work late. So she was probably going home 6:30 at night. 6:30 at night, it's about to get dark in a couple hours. So there's only a few hours distance between 6:30 and 9:30 maybe, when it's at its peak darkness, when you could see the full moon when they said they went back there. So it gives a few hours now. So she seen Shorty as she was leaving, sitting at Spahn Ranch. She drives out, and in a rear view mirror, the last thing she seen is 4 guys she thought was Tex Watson, Charles Manson, Bill Vance, and Bruce Davis walking up to Shorty's car. Rear view mirror, it's the last thing she seen.
He was an athlete all the way
last
around.
time that she
He
ever
drove
seen
teams,
Shorty
wrangled,
again.
helped us with the chores many times. Came early in the morning, stayed late at night. He just seemed to hang around here and see what he could do. That's all I have to say.
Is he missing now?
Yes, we're very concerned about him because he hasn't showed up. And if he were in this area, he would show up. Because he left his things here. And he's around 35. Closer to 40, maybe. Yes, heavy set, husky built, and strong.
Leads me to believe that the stories that Barbara Hoyt's telling about the screams, she actually could have heard them at Spahn Ranch. And I also believe her because I believe Clem and these girls, when they were telling you this in court, they were the ones that were telling you this. They were the ones that said they chopped him up in 9 pieces, buried him under a full moon after they smoked a joint. Probably because they couldn't carry the dude. The dude was like 6'5" tall. And I used to work in a funeral home, and me and my friend Scott, we had to go pick up dead bodies sometimes. It was rare, but we had to. And on one occasion, we had to go pick up this old lady that was in bed. And I'm telling you what, it's not easy to pick up a dead body and move it around. It's just not. They become stiff and all sorts. It's just not easy to move them around. So when they got back down here to the scene, was it too hard for him to move it around? Because Bruce already testified that Manson handed him a machete and already told him to chop this guy's head off.
Mr. Shea was seemed to be in a sitting down, leaned forward position. And Manson handed me a machete and pointed to it like very hard. And I dropped the machete out to the ground.
At any point, did you lay the machete on Shorty's neck?
No, I touched him. I touched his neck with the machete. And then dropped him.
We don't even listen to the facts, really. They were telling us things. They were telling us, giving us clues. You know, every one of the Manson family already knew that he was chopped into 9 pieces. And now the media is down there looking for when they say, okay, here's what the story is. Here's what the story is that we're led to believe anyway. The cops get this information from Clem. Okay, in the notes of the cops, it says that when Clem gives this information up, now there was like 6 people. Let me see there. There was supposedly in the first car was Shorty was driving. Then beside him was Tex Watson. Behind him was Steve Groven, Clem. And on that side of the car in the back seat was Bruce Davis. Supposedly then, Manson shows up. There's several stories to this with Manson showing up. Some say Manson, he just shows up not in a car, which could make sense because, you know, that's where Manson said he hung out, and that's his tree right there in that spot is where he said he hung out a lot. So he could have mysteriously turned up right there without a car. Some others say he turned up in a car, and they say he turned up in a car with a guy by the name of Bill Vance and a guy by the name of Larry Bailey. Well, that makes sense because Bruce says he testified to the fact that, you know, Manson was talking about killing Shorty over at the ranch, and he was talking to him with Bill Vance, Tex Watson, and Bruce. So that makes sort of sense that Vance came in the car and Larry Bailey too. The only thing that don't make any sense is Larry Bailey, Bill Vance, Tex Watson, or none of them got indicted on this crime. Basically, Larry Bailey was let go away. He was just gone. I don't know what Larry Bailey was. I mean, in the past, people have found him and shit like that. But what was he at the time? Was he some kind of police informant? Was he kind of a plant at the ranch? Because you can find papers where Juan Flynn talks about that he thought that this Bailey guy was like a snitch to Manson. And then these people are actually snitched out. Who actually told that there was a dead body and where to find it at? It was Clem in 1977. It was pretty much 8 years after the fact that they were already convicted for the crime. What I'm talking about, though, is who actually told them that there was a dead body? This dude could have been, like, still alive somewhere and escaped, but they convicted these people on a body that didn't even exist, only on rumors that they had chopped him up in all these pieces. Okay, that's what got them all convicted. Only 3 of them convicted. Tex Watson never got convicted of this crime. He was able to escape. The only one that they're really holding right now on this crime is Bruce Davis, that poor sucker. He's the only one that they're still holding on this thing, and because Manson's already served his time for it, he's died now, so he's paid his dues for Shorty if he did, if he didn't, whatever. But Bruce, man, poor Bruce. Bruce, I don't think really had all that much involvement in it. Clem, just think about this. Clem, the guy that's out playing a guitar up in Northern California, that one of our governors of California already let scot-free, and on On the word. Here's what the police notes were. He's gonna give us the word of where the body is, and we're gonna find the body and find that it wasn't mutilated in 9 different pieces like they said at the trial, and then we're gonna let him free. Okay, they found the body. They make it sound like that they just came and found the body too. Clem gave them this information, they came down, they found the body. Not how it happened. They came down and they looked for a month and a half with the directions that Clem gave them to find this body. And then when they finally, 6.5 weeks later, when they finally find this body, then the media shows up. And the media takes some, I don't know, some cockamamie picture that you really can't tell. It's overexposed. It's like way too bright. I don't know if it ever made it to the news anyway, of this body that's supposed to be in one full piece.
He was buried into the side of an embankment about 150 feet off the Santa Susana Pass Road, 1 mile west of Topanga Boulevard. L.A. County Sheriff's investigators received information to look in this area about 6 weeks ago and have been digging along the hillside ever since. Sergeant Bill Gleason, who's been on this case for 8 years, talked about the information that led the investigation to this particular site.
Information we received in the past from various people who have since grown up. When they were with the Manson family, they were very young. They've grown older, and they decided that now was the time to let Mr. Shea be found.
Now, do you feel that this is the man? He is not beheaded. He looks like he is all in one piece, which goes against what was said during the trial.
Well, that was just a rumor going around. I think that was told by some of the so-called Manson family people just to make people pay more attention to what they were doing, or just to embellish on the death of Mr. Shea.
How do you feel after being on this case for 8 years?
Well, I'm quite pleased that we finally found him. It's been quite a search.
When it comes to the motives of this crime, there's been many of them. There's a list of them. From Frank Retz hired Shorty to kick the Manson family off the ranch. He was in the process of kicking them off. He got murdered. Then there was a story of Shorty was a snitch. Was Shorty a snitch? I mean, he gets a bad rap for being a snitch, but the murders happened weeks before that. They said if he knew about the murders, he was going to snitch. Well, he hadn't at that point. So how did they know that he was going to snitch? So that doesn't make any sense either, because I don't think he was a snitch. I don't think he was going to snitch. So what would the motive have been? They thought he was going to snitch. That's the motive? Some of the newspapers came out and said because he married a black woman, Manson hated blacks so bad that he murdered him. Give me a break. Manson, there's nobody on earth, really, that hates a race of individual that is going to murder somebody just because they're married to him. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I'm sure it happened, and I'm sure it does happen, but it's just ridiculous for a motive for that. He did not murder him because he married a black woman. And plus, he only married her like days before that. Come on. Like, all of a sudden, he knew about this woman. I'm sure she was with him before that. So none of the motives really add up. Unless they thought he was going to tell about the murders. So who would have the biggest part in wanting him not to tell about the murders? It would be Tex, who was in the front seat of the car with the guy, who some say Tex stabbed him when Clem smashed him over the head from the back seat with a pipe wrench, or a pipe, some people say. He would have the greatest motive because he's the one that committed the other murders. But it all gets blamed on Manson. It all falls back on Manson. Manson told him to do it, but I think Tex had the biggest motive to have this guy dead. Tex was in the car with him, and Tex was never indicted for this murder. Today, Tex sits in prison, never indicted on the Shorty Shea murder. Everybody forgot about the stuntman. It was always Manson told him to kill him for whatever reason. But I don't think that's the case. Just as well as I don't think that they were telling the whole complete truth when they said that they dug up the whole body. The media shows this really not even a good picture of it. It was like overexposed, too much light, something was making this thing too bright. And I'm sure I've gotten second versions, third versions, but still, even if you had the first version of this video, it doesn't show that this guy was a full body. There's no way that they could have made that conclusion. After searching for 6 weeks, they finally found a body. Did they finally found the head of the body? Because it looks like other bones are piled on top. It looks like around it, there's other bones that are scattered around. They're broken in half, like a machete. Chopped the dude in half. Chopped the dude in 9 pieces. On the coroner's report, it shows all that was left of the guy's bones. They pieced him all together. If you look at the video, he's laying there as a full body, but it's all pieced bones, all pieced together. He wasn't in one piece. Not by their own pictures, not by their own admission at the media thing when they show the picture. I mean, come on, even if they say he's a full body, we just found him, they only had like this much of his skull was even sticking out of the ground at that point. So how can they even come to the, and it looked like his eyes were facing out in this direction, so he would have to be buried straight up and down for that to happen. Come on now. You know, something's going on here. Was people just really sloppy? They just want to just get it over with. Now the media's here for this. We knew they'd show up because that Manson thing, just tell them whatever. Yeah, we found the whole body. Who cares? You know, we made a deal with this Clem guy. If we find it's not in pieces, we're going to let him out. Okay, he's in pieces. Now what do? Just let him out anyway? Huh? What happened? What happened? Because clearly, to me, I don't know. If you don't think it, if you see a full body here, you tell me. And any of this stuff that I just showed you, if you see a full body to the stuntman, you tell me in the comments. Tell me, hey man, you're crazy, you're out of your mind. I see a full body. And the story goes as follows. You know, he was mad because he married a black woman. Okay, fine. Just tell me what you believe. But I don't believe none of that. And when you start looking at all the things and all the stories and everything about this whole entire Manson case, everything, not just Shorty, and there's all kinds of mysteries about Shorty, not just Shorty, but everything. Sometimes you can really believe that this could have been a movie. Manson even said it a lot of times, it's just a movie. What does that even mean? A bunch of actors walking around playing a part like, yeah, I'm a sheriff, but I haven't been on the squad too much, so I don't really know what I'm doing, so whatever, I'll just play the part like a sheriff. Or, yeah, I'm a coroner, and I haven't been here very long, and I'm just out of college, so I don't really know what's going on, I just follow what they say, and yeah, I'm a coroner. So a movie like that where everybody's playing parts, but nobody is really professional about what they're doing. They're just there playing a part. They're playing a part of the media. Hey, did you find the full body? Yeah, we found the full body. Cool, see you later. And neither one of them, I don't know. You tell me. But anyway, until next time, thanks for watching, and peace.
Late last night, another bizarre murder in Los Angeles, the second in 2 days. The owner of a small supermarket chain found in his home his head covered by a white hood, a meat fork stuck in his chest.
I noticed a picture of you sitting on the porch. A picture of you sitting on the back porch.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what?